always like to lean on our friends at Illinois Policy for expertise on all things Illinois. And if you don't have Illinois Policy up on your computer and you're bookmarking or have bookmarked it, get with it, because you will find so much valuable information every single day. And one of the great things, as I've pointed out time and time again about Illinois Policy, is they will be very critical of something that's going on, but instead of just being critical and walking away, they offer alternatives, solutions, their own ideas. It's a great clearinghouse of information, IllinoisPolicy.org. And from Illinois Policy, research analyst Bryce Hill's taking time out of his day to spend some time with us. Bryce, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning to you too, Riley.
How you doing this morning?
Doing very well. How about yourself?
I have nothing to complain about other than, some of the points in the piece that you co-authored here. IllinoisPolicy.org, with voters set to decide on progressive income tax, Illinois wealth flight among the worst in the nation. And some of the numbers that you have in here, Bryce, about how we're losing people and a big pile of money are pretty sobering.
Absolutely. So, yeah, as you mentioned, we're considering a progressive income tax. Lawmakers are asking Illinois voters to approve this at the ballot next November. But in the meantime, we've been getting tons of information from both the Census Bureau and the IRS showing us just exactly how bad the state's people problem is. And our analysis shows that in the past decade, Illinois has lost up to $32 billion in income due to people leaving the state. And that's because over 168,000 residents have been moving out of the state, and that's just the population decline. Even more people have been moving out, but luckily, we have some natural increase that has offset that a little bit. But the net effect is that we've essentially lost the past decade of growth because people are moving out of the state.
Up to $32 billion in adjusted gross income since 2010, with residents going to other states. That's roughly $12.4 million per day. And as Bryce pointed out, these aren't numbers that you guys are working on your own calculator here. You're taking numbers from the Census Department and from the IRS.
Yeah, so the Census Bureau and the IRS, they give out tons of information. And then our job, what we do is we tell you what it means. We look at those numbers. We figure out things like where people are going, what is causing this decline, how much of an impact is it having on the economy. All the numbers are coming straight from government sources, but unfortunately, we seem to be some of the only people who are telling us, what it actually means, because these numbers have some real severe consequences for Illinoisans who choose to stay.
Now, Illinois has led the Midwest in outbound migration for I don't know how long, but as far as the entire 50 states, are we number one or number two in losing people?
In terms of losing people, it depends on how you dice it. So over the decade, we saw the worst decline in population out of any state. And then if you look at it as a percentage of the population, the only state we're trailing behind is West Virginia. So we're not in good ranks no matter which way you want to look at it.
And when you look at the age groups, according to your extremely well-written piece here, too, the largest age group leaving this state in tax year 2018 were those of prime working age, with 58% of those leaving age 26 to 54. Those who move were also higher-skilled workers choosing markets with more job opportunities. This isn't necessarily a loss to the Sun Belt where people are going, all right, I'm a little older now, I have to go where it's warm. We could be talking about right over state lines.
Absolutely. That's a very common myth, is that people who are sympathetic to the state and the current affairs, saying that everything's fine and hunky-dory, like to point out that, these are probably just people that are moving to Florida or Arizona to retire to their sunset years. But this data really shows that that's not the case. Most people most people that are leaving are in prime working years. They're looking for opportunities, places to find jobs, places to start families. And increasingly, they're becoming unable to do that in Illinois, and so unfortunately, they're choosing other states. So it really provides some insight as to why people are leaving, because we know that the number one people say that they want to leave are the high taxes in the state. But when you look at the age groups, we can see that, wow, these people really are leaving because whether it be taxes or some other reason, they're not able to find the right opportunities for their families here.
And we're losing income in all brackets, but those who earn $200,000 or more are leaving twice as fast as average income residents.
Yeah, that is what is perhaps the most concerning about the new IRS data, is that the people who are most likely to leave are the very people that lawmakers have asked that we have the ability to tax more. And what that means for everyday Illinoisans is that the money that those lawmakers are claiming that the progressive income tax is going to bring in, and the money that they're relying on and have basically already spent, isn't going to be there. And so once that happens, it's going to be so much easier to just bring that income tax down to the next lowest bracket and the next lowest bracket. So really, the best way to protect the middle class, is to encourage growth and to stop trying to tax the people who are leaving the most, because it's a strategy that's been tried and failed. And in California, just a few years ago, they tried the same exact thing. They said that the money was going to go to education, and that you could just get a massive progressive income tax hike. Unfortunately, all the money went to pensions. It brought in less money than they thought because it had devastating economic consequences. And the people that it raised taxes on became 40% more likely to leave than before the tax hike. So this is actually a big deal when it comes to state finance.
We're spending some time with Bryce Hill from Illinois Policy. He's a research analyst, got a really, really interesting piece out with voters set to decide on the progressive income tax. Illinois weighs wealth flight among worst in the nation. You talk about that, taxing the people that, we're going to tax them, we're going to tax them, we're going to tax them. You point out in your story, the only state to see a higher share of residents making more than $200,000 leave in tax year 2018 was New York. Governor Andrew Cuomo put it this way, quote, "Tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. We did. Now, God forbid, the rich leave."
Absolutely. And, that's a part of a larger trend. It's not just New York. It's not just California. When you look at the fastest growing states over the past 10 years, you see the fastest growing ones are states like Utah, Texas, Colorado, Nevada, and Florida. All those states either have flat or no income tax at all. And then meanwhile, the slowest growing states are states like West Virginia, Illinois, Connecticut, Vermont, and Mississippi that have progressive income tax structures, with the exception of Illinois, who's now considering switching to one. So we have this very large trend of Americans fleeing high progressive income tax states for low, flat to no income tax states, more competitive tax structures. And that's because those places are providing the most opportunity. They see the most robust jobs growth. They're fostering environments where families can actually thrive and can have a stable future. And if we pursue a policy of further tax hikes, we're going to get the same dysfunction and the same uncertainty that we've seen for the past decade.
You point out in your piece, when Illinoisans leave the state, they don't go empty-handed. They take with them jobs, opportunity, talent, financial assets that would otherwise have fed Illinois' economy.
Absolutely. So, $32 billion over the past decade just due to outmigration. And we also have a piece out that looks at what would have happened if we would have just simply kept pace with the rest of the nation. If we wouldn't have performed stellarly, if we would have just been an average state for since the Great Recession started. And what we found is that the economy would be $78 billion larger. We would have over 1 million additional people in the state, bringing untold billions of dollars in additional economic activity with them. And what that would do is it would generate, further state tax revenue that we won't even have to be considering raising taxes on Illinoisans. If we just can simply grow the economy at not even a rapid rate, just at a modest rate, we would get $3.5 billion more annually every single year, and that would be for this year. So we would be able to have avoided most of the major tax hikes that lawmakers have enacted in the state if we could just simply foster an environment that is conducive to modest growth.
Yeah, which would be nice. Modest growth is better than none, which we've seen for far too long. Well, we have
or negative.
Yeah, we have until November. Am I right to figure this out? November 3rd, we go to the ballot box and decide whether or not to scrap the flat income tax for the progressive one.
Yeah, so November 3rd, Illinoisans are going to be given the opportunity to make their voices heard with this. So the good thing about this is it's not up to state lawmakers who have historically failed or decided to raise taxes on Illinoisans. So Illinoisans are going to get the chance to do so. I'm hoping that with all these numbers and all these stories coming out that we're going to look at it and say, we can't afford to do this, that Illinoisans already have some of the highest levels of distrust for their state government for good reason. We live in one of the most corrupt states. We're shedding people and we're pursuing the wrong reforms instead of something that's actually going to put the state on the solid